In that courtroom, King Harris didn't simply pass out. He startled fans and broke the whole image of hip-hop royalty in front of flashing cameras. Consider this. In front of a court, the son of T, the alleged monarch of the South, exuded all the haughtiness of celebrity, and then suddenly the gavel smashes. Not probation, not 5 months, but 5 years. 5 cruel years behind bars. The quiet is more powerful than any rap duel. The murmurs are more sinister than any diss song. Oh, the collapse was more than just King collapsing to the ground. In real time, an empire was collapsing. However, this is the nobody wants to ask this question. Was King Harris's careless decisions the true issue here? Or did this have to do with communicating with his father, Atlanta, and the entire culture that believed it to be untouchable? Because you should reconsider if you believe that this was a straightforward sentence. According to unnamed sources, power struggles did not only occur in court. It's possible that every moment of that spectacular collapse was prearranged by leaked rumors, backroom transactions, and personal grudges. Tell me then, was King Harris sacrificed or was he punished? King Harris did not enter the controversy by accident. Like chaos was his inheritance and fame was oxygen, he ran toward it. This wasn't just any child who made a poor choice. T, the self-declared king of the South in hip-hop, was the father of this child. He was born into the spotlight, grew up on red carpets, and was given the keys to an empire before he could even drive. And now, as the judge delivered a shocking 5-year prison term on live television, that same child was exploding in court. However, let's go back in time because the courtroom was not the beginning of this catastrophe. This was a long-brewing controversy that took years to develop. Do you recall those notorious Instagram lives? King displaying cash piles larger than most people's rent, boasting of his uniqueness and claiming to be untouchable. Those posts weren't just arrogant ones. They were cautions. No one heeded the warnings until it was too late. Even his own family, according to insiders, attempted to control him. But disobedience was King's lifeblood. He wished to demonstrate that he was more than just T.I.'s kid. He desired to demonstrate his invincibility. Rumor blogs were whispered to by an alleged buddy. Untouchable? Obviously not. Let's also discuss his reputation. King was the kind of celebrity kid who made a name for himself out of luxury. Iced out jewelry, fancy clothing, and exclusive parties in Atlanta that were more chaotic than educational. King was making TMZ headlines for fights in nightclubs and viral outbursts, while most children his age were fretting about tests or part-time jobs. Each scandal and misstep turned into another brick in the wall that surrounded him. The writing was already on the wall when he found himself facing that judge. However, this was more than a careless child. The Harris name was at issue here. Your sins don't belong to you when your father is a successful businessman who has escaped federal gun accusations, feuds with powerful industry figures, and tabloid takedowns. They are dynasty members. Additionally, the fall is more difficult the larger the dynasty. Therefore, King's arrest wasn't shown as youthful when it made the headlines. A man in peril. It was staged to show the disintegration of the Harris Empire's heir. The courtroom was packed because of this. Everyone, including journalists, bloggers, and business insiders, wanted to see how the Harris dynasty fell apart. Oh, did it break? The magistrate didn't simply read a sentence aloud. King's reputation was publicly executed by him. 5 years. The courtroom's atmosphere froze. Witnesses claimed to have heard gasps. Then King, the child who used to brag that no one could ever touch him, literally fell to the ground. His legs collapsed, his shoulders dropped, and his eyes widened as if he couldn't believe the system had the audacity to touch him. The haughtiness vanished for a second. He was briefly not T.I.'s son. He was simply another 20-year-old who would be imprisoned for 5 years. However, this is the unexpected turn of events. Did something larger cause this collapse, or was it real? Because, according to whispers, King's poor choices weren't the only factor in the case. According to unnamed sources, police had been monitoring him for months, keeping tabs on his whereabouts and answering his calls. They desired for him to fall. They wanted to convey a message, according to one alleged leak. To whom, though? To King, to T.I., to the whole hip-hop scene in Atlanta. The theories begin to swirl at that point. Consider it. Before, there were cameras outside the building. King even showed up. How frequently does that occur? Ideal timing or a masterfully planned show? Online fans didn't think twice. Setup and hashtag freaking were among the most popular hashtags on Twitter, while hashtag consequences were used in response by detractors. Instagram was overrun with memes. Images of the monarch in handcuffs and T.I. with a crown are shown side by side. From King of the South to Prison King, the captions read, "Barbarian? Indeed. Going viral? Of course. Not to be overlooked in all of this is T.I.'s shadow. He has danced the tightrope between mogul and danger for decades. Drug rumors, gun allegations, and brutal public feuds. He returned stronger after surviving them all. However, he wasn't the only one on trial this time. He saw his son's decline from the audience. Even his connections couldn't undo the weight of a sentence. According to witnesses, T appeared pale, trembling, and perspiring as the gavel descended. For the first time, the man who always had an answer was helpless. And it was like seeing the fall of the Harris Empire when King fell. Slow motion. This is where the story becomes even more sinister. According to anonymous leaks, this was more than just an arrest. It hurt. A meticulously planned operation intended to degrade King's father in addition to overthrowing him. Word on the evening of King's arrest, police were led directly to him by an anonymous tip. Surprisingly, cameras were already there when the cuffs were applied. Too polished, too flawless. It's almost as if this collapse was intended to go viral. However, why? Rival crews in Atlanta, according to some, wanted to see T.I. weakened, wished to take advantage of a weakness. Others blame politicians who are desperate for publicity and want to show that they were cleaning up the streets by removing a famous family. Then there are hints of more serious resentments. Adversaries from T.I.'s past who at last found a chance to retaliate against his family. Not the man. It seems more like drama the more you look at it, and less like justice. And King Harris's downfall. That was the dramatic clip that made headlines. Would rerun on late-night chat shows, YouTube, and TikTok. It was a breakdown of power, privilege, and reputation, not simply of a boy in court. However, that courtroom was not where the main storm existed. Because while T.I. staggered in disbelief and King was being condemned, something much larger was brewing already. Sealed testimonies, leaked records, and rumors of investigations that went beyond King's own. According to industry insiders, the 5-year sentence was only the start of a far larger takedown than anyone had anticipated, which begs the horrifying question. If King Harris was only the pawn, then are they truly pursuing the king? Rumor has it that the true king in this game was never seated in the defendant's chair if King Harris was only the pawn. To punish a 20-year-old child, the judge did not just impose a 5-year term. No, T himself was the target of this chess move. Suddenly, King Harris's downfall appeared more like a warning shot than a personal tragedy. Consider it. Rumors circulated that King was being watched for months prior to the arrest. Covert monitoring, wiretaps, and even informants who were part of his inner circle. A task team had reportedly been following him since the summer, according to anonymous law enforcement sources. Not because they wanted King, but rather because they wanted what? Or more accurately, who was standing behind him. And the message couldn't have been more clear as King struck the floor and the gavel banged. We can touch you if we can touch him. According to industry sources, this was no accident. King was bait, one alleged former DA colleague told a blogger. They wanted to shake the empire, rattle the cage and see what came out, and boy did things start dropping. Rumors of sealed court records surfaced within hours of the sentencing. began to circulate online. Names larger than monarchs, musicians, promoters, and even businessmen connected to Atlanta's hip-hop industry are purportedly displayed in half-blurred screenshots. King's 5 years were merely Act 1, assuming those leaks were genuine, which, let's face it, fans don't care if they are. The internet devoured it. Detectives on TikTok went crazy, assembling conspiracies as if they were on a true crime show. YouTube channels released hour-long exposés titled Atlanta's Secret Files and The Harris Dynasty is Over. Twitter was divided, chanting hashtag from one side. Naturally, the memes are vicious, and the opposing side is yelling hashtag TI exposed. While the internet disputed, the true drama was taking place behind closed doors, as evidenced by one popular post that showed King fainting with the remark, "Checkmate." Business associates reportedly began avoiding TI within hours of the ruling. Plans to sign deals were abruptly put on hold indefinitely. A liquor endorsement has been revoked. A documentary on streaming was put on hold. Standing next to a failing empire is not something anyone wants to do. An unnamed business executive murmured, "Scandal spreads like poison. Everyone involved in King's case will fall with him if it uncovers more dirt." And it was family, not just business. Arguments erupted the night following the sentencing, according to sources close to the Harris household, if you can call them that. Small apparently implored T to make an urgent appeal to stand up for their son no matter what. But according to insiders, T hesitated because he understood that if he fought harder, it may reveal more unpleasant and profound truths, not because he didn't love his son. Consider a father who must choose between preserving the empire and saving his son. When both are vanishing, which do you pick? In the meantime, the leaks continued. On Reddit, a purportedly damaged but scary audio tape circulated. Fans shouted, "You can't touch me. I'm a Harris," throughout the arrest, swearing it was King's voice. If true, it portrayed him as conceited, entitled, and careless. If it was a fake, it was brilliant since the public's perception changed all at once. King was no longer merely a victim. He believed he was above the law because he was the pampered son of hip-hop aristocracy. Furthermore, that story had a greater impact on TI than the actual collapse. It was a vicious blowback. Critics found previous videos showing King making fun of the police, boasting about his wealth, and even making fun of supporters online. Targeting is not what this is. This is a result. One tweet went viral, and even though supporters did everything in their power to protect him, the harm was already done. Public pity vanished. King was no longer viewed as a pawn. He was viewed as evidence of the Harris dynasty's belief in inviolability. Here's the worst part, though. King was not at all the cause of the actual storm. Prosecutors reportedly had their sights set on TI's assets, enterprises, and even real estate transactions. Millions of dollars in mysterious transfers linked to Harris-owned businesses were suggested by leaked documents, which were obviously unsubstantiated but intriguing enough to trend. One alleged if that's the case, King's collapse wasn't the climax. An unnamed insider wrote, "Follow the money. King was just the start. The trigger was all that was involved, and there was a bloody scent in the streets." Allegedly, rival crews began to circle, encouraged by the newfound vulnerability of the Harris family. The blogs were inundated with unverified allegations of attempted break-ins and anonymous entries claiming that suspicious vehicles were seen outside TI's properties. One anonymous DM read, "The wolves emerge when the king falls." Indeed, there were rumors of anarchy and reprisals began filling Atlanta's subterranean space. It wasn't even safe in the industry. A well-known rapper sent out a mysterious tweet. One completed, "More to come." Immediately, many conjectured that it was about King. According to a podcast, another producer from Atlanta said, "They're cleaning house." This wasn't just a Harris issue. It was presented as a cleansing of Atlanta's hip-hop community, and all of a sudden, names like Future, Young Thug, and even 21 Savage began to be mentioned in fan forums. Anyone tied to that circle should be worried. Those words spread like wildfire. Ideas whether or not they were involved, and T.I. was disintegrating in slow motion during all of this. The guy who had formerly positioned himself as untouchable and positioned himself as a survivor of scandal after scandal was suddenly helpless, and it has been said that he called in old allies. Nobody wants to get dragged down with him, one insider murmured. The cruel irony. Favors trying to rebuild bridges he had burned years ago. But the problem with bridges is once they're ash, they don't carry your weight anymore. Even old pals avoided him. Resilience, rising from the ashes, and becoming the comeback king were the pillars upon which T.I. based his brand for years. The ashes were no longer his stepping stone, though. His empire was on fire. Additionally, every whisper, leak, and blurry screenshot was a log added to the fire. And it got darker just when fans believed it couldn't. Online rumors about a purported secret witness list began to circulate. Details are sparse and names are veiled, but it's enough to make people panic. According to rumors, it had promoters, former managers, and even security guards who were all purportedly prepared to testify if authorities pursued T.I. The former associate was also reportedly eager to reveal financial wrongdoing. At this point, people weren't questioning whether the Harris empire would endure. One line said, "Whether it was real or fake didn't matter. The panic was real. Before the dust settled, they wanted to know how much more would collapse. And that collapse was no longer merely an emotional one. According to reports, properties held by Harris were being investigated, and there were rumors that raids were about to take place. Assets were being frozen according to some. Others claimed there were already sealed indictments pending. Additionally, in the 5-year sentence that crushed King Harris's heart suddenly seemed like a footnote at that point. Because the real storm wasn't about one careless son if the leaks and whispers were legitimate. It concerned an empire on the verge of collapse. Thus, the question is, if King was merely a pawn, the king they intended to overthrow next was T himself. Was T then the monarch they truly sought? The whisperers yelled it, not merely hinted at it. King Harris's 5-year sentence was never solely about kingship. A warning shot, a teaser trailer for the actual film, or fate. The downfall of Atlanta's most formidable tycoon. And T.I.'s demise in that courtroom was just the start of an empire-wide collapse if the leaks were even partially accurate. For all of a sudden, King's wild Instagram lives and late-night shenanigans weren't the only things being rumored. They dealt with murky money trails. Commercial transactions and secrets so deeply ingrained in T.I.'s history that supporters believed they had been forgotten. However, nothing is ever truly buried. Not while the prosecutors are starving. Not when the internet is itching for a fresh controversy to eat at. And not when adversaries are murmuring. Unidentified rumors of sealed indictment files with T.I.'s name began to circulate. According to one purported source, they're after the money. And the entire mansion collapses when they follow the money. Insane rumors that the Harris Empire was founded on more than just music were spread by blogs. Goods, real estate transactions, offshore accounts, enigmatic transfers, and receipts that nobody could confirm but that everyone wanted to believe. Because lies spread more quickly in the arena of scandal if they are more juicy. And it spread. Edits of T.I. set to menacing music were all across TikTok timelines. Captions such as "The Rule of the King" as investigators on YouTube retrieved past interviews and used them as evidence that T had been concealing something for years. Late-night gossip forums emerged on Twitter, with some discussing whether the administration had been waiting for this moment all along. "This isn't about King," says one message that went viral. The mayhem wasn't limited to the internet, though. This is about tearing down a dynasty. The fallout behind the scenes was vicious. According to reports, T.I.'s business partners began to evacuate a sinking ship with greater speed than rats. Overnight, deals fell through. The endorsements disappeared. It is said that even longtime partners fell silent out of fear of being implicated. One unidentified executive told a gossip page that no one wants to be standing next to a burning house. As well as the Harris name, it was radioactive in addition to being contaminated. Tensions erupted even among the family. According to insider rumors, Tiny pleaded with T to come clean in order to prevent the leaks before the tale went totally awry. However, T kept his cards close to the vest. Too near. He was allegedly holding back because he realized the leaks weren't merely rumors. They served as proof. Actual incriminating proof that would plunge the whole family into a pit from which they would never be able to escape. As the world cried out for answers, he remained silent. King's circumstances within the prison, meanwhile, were becoming darker. Whether they were fake or authentic, the leaked letters portrayed him as rebellious, fighting with guards and refusing to fit in. According to some accounts, he boasted about his family name. Others said that threats were the reason he was isolated. The disclosures, in any case, presented him as everything but contrite. The system found it simpler to defend his incarceration the harsher he sounded. Additionally, every unfavorable report about King merely fueled the flames that were already smoldering around T.I. Here's the dark twist, though. Perhaps the Harris family's darkest moment was not King's fall, because rumors circulated that federal investigators were not going to stop with him. Online rumors about sealed testimony suggested that promoters, former managers, and even old pals were willing to speak up if it meant defending themselves. Willing to confirm financial misconduct was one purported statement from an anonymous witness list. If even one of those rumors were accurate, T.I. was dealing with more than just a PR disaster. He was on the verge of a legal catastrophe. The cryptic posts followed. Fans went crazy after a well-known producer from Atlanta purportedly indicated on Instagram, "One chapter closes, another opens, whole city about to shake." With these sealed files, who else was bound? They mentioned well-known promoters as well as Future and Young Thug. It made no difference if it was true or not, whether they were related or not. The city was set on fire by the perception alone. Rumors rang across the streets. The Harris is said to have given rival crews confidence to start flexing. Family's vulnerability. The throne is vacant when the king dies. An anonymous direct message was read. Indeed, rumors of reprisals, turf fights, and impending mayhem began to circulate throughout Atlanta's underworld. This was no longer merely a legal scandal. It was an earthquake of culture. And throughout it all, folks kept seeing the same eerie image. As his son was sentenced, he collapsed in the courtroom, pallid and sweaty. He positioned himself for years as the hustler, the survivor, and the man who made every scandal into a return. However, it appeared that the returning king had finally ran out of maneuvers. The internet accurately described it as the demise of a dynasty. However, the most terrifying rumors did not originate from fan theories or websites. They were allegedly from unnamed insiders, asserting that this was only the start of a federal purge that would target not only artists but also influential people connected to Atlanta's hip-hop industry, including politicians, investors, and power brokers. According to one purported leak, King's sentencing was a ruse to get witnesses to flip in order to intimidate others. The Harris empire was merely the first domino, if that is accurate. And the other major personalities in Atlanta might follow. Consider that. A controversy that is so vast